Even if you've never read a single issue of Archie comics, you've probably heard the name Jughead thrown around somewhere in your day-to-day, especially when it comes to television. There's nothing quite special about Jughead, really. He's not that revolutionary of a character. He's just a typical comedic sidekick in juxtaposition to Archie's straight man. But he's often remembered fondly by most fans. What most people don't know is that Archie comics still exists today and is still so influential that the CW decided to make a dark and gritty TV show out of it. One of the hypes around this show was around the character of Jughead, only because in recent years something new and novel was revealed about his character. Jughead, notorious burger lover, paper crown donner, and self-proclaimed woman hater, was in fact asexual. And this got a lot of fans hyped for the TV show. Finally, some ace representation for a canonically ace character. Were the producers of the CW really going to let Jughead be asexual? Well...
What?
Okay, well, so Jughead and Betty kiss. That doesn't mean that he isn't asexual. Okay, to be perfectly frank, there's nothing inherently wrong with this scene. The show never made any such claims or hints that Jughead would be asexual, or, even funny. He actually takes up the brooding side character slot in the show, which is, fine. It's a cheesy teen drama, murder mystery show, whatever. But to say nothing, a lot of fans were, disappointed. Here was a real chance for representation, and the CW just kind of poo-pooed on it. And you know what? That just sucks. But wait, why is this important at all? Why does representation for asexual people matter? Well, let's start at the beginning. What is asexuality?
Asexual. An individual who is not sexually attracted to either men or women. Repulsed asexual. Asexuals that are opposed to the idea of having sex with any other individual. Some may masturbate to release any sexual tension, though some even find masturbation repulsive. Flexible asexuals. Asexuals that are more open to the idea of having sex and may be willing to have sex for the benefit of a sexual partner. Some flexible asexuals may even enjoy having sex but don't experience attraction. Aromantic asexuals. Asexuals who have little or no romantic drive. They usually prefer to be single. Some even never experience crushes. Aromantic asexuals are usually repulsed asexuals. Some romantic asexuals do cohabitate with people in what is called a queer platonic relationship, or QPR for short, something between a friendship and a romantic relationship. Although QPRs are not exclusive to aromantic asexuals, people in QPRs may choose to cohabitate or even choose to raise children together. Romantic asexuals. Asexuals who have a romantic drive and often have a desire to find a significant other. Romantic asexuals can either be flexible or repulsed. Flexible ones are usually willing to date sexuals and asexuals. Repulsed ones usually prefer to date other asexuals when possible. Romantic asexuals are split into a few subcategories: heteroromantic, homoromantic, biromantic, and panromantic, meaning they are asexuals who are emotionally attracted to individuals of the opposite, same, either, or all genders. People can even be aromantic, but heterosexual, homosexual, pansexual, or bisexual. It is all a spectrum.
Let's talk about what asexuality is not. Asexuality is not celibacy. Celibacy is a practice of refraining from sex, usually but not exclusively for religious reasons. Both sexual and asexual people can choose celibacy, but it is a choice, not an orientation. Hypoactive sexual desire disorder, or HSDD, is a disorder where someone does not experience sexual desire, usually temporary, and is signified by marked distress or marked interpersonal difficulty. Usually the person desires a cure. There's this whole other orientation out there, a whole world full of possibilities. And for the most part, it goes ignored. Well, how does mainstream media represent the asexual identity? Let's look at 4 categories of representation for asexual characters in television and movies. Some of it bad, and some of it
excellent!
Bad representation.
You know that close to 1% of the population identifies as asexual?
House. Better half.
I have a patient who's asexual.
Is she a giant pool of algae?
It's a valid sexual orientation.
$100 says I can find a medical reason why she doesn't want to have sex.
In 2012, Fox Network's medical mystery show House did an episode on an asexual couple. House is basically Sherlock Holmes as a doctor, a grumpy old curmudgeon with terrible bedside manner, blunt with his diagnoses, but is usually right in the end.
Hormone levels are normal. This woman seems perfectly healthy. What does it matter if she says she's asexual?
It's the fundamental drive of our species. Sex is healthy.
You're gonna have to accept she just doesn't want sex.
Lots of people don't have sex. The only people who don't want it are either sick, dead, or lying.
Though the writers have done their research, the episode lands on the side of...
He's doing the treatment.
The framing of this show is that we are supposed to side with House, who thinks that asexuality isn't real and treats those who are asexual as stupid. If you create a scenario in which the asexual person has to be fixed, well, how is that any different than fixing someone who is gay? Ace people often find comfort and validation in their identity. But there's this constant outside force of heteronormative scripts trying to rip that away, telling asexuals there's something wrong with you. You aren't human. You aren't whole. Behind the scenes asexuals. Charlie Weasley, the Harry Potter series. Charlie Weasley is one of the Weasley brothers, a family of redhead wizards who befriend Harry Potter on his magical adventures. And if you've only seen the movies, well, he's not in them. Charlie only appears in the novelization of Harry Potter. Charlie is a dragon wrangler and makes an appearance in the first and fourth books. When asked about Charlie's sexuality in an interview, author J.K. Rowling says,
"And then Charlie had children or married.
Is he gay?
Dumbledore's gay. No, I don't think Charlie's gay. Just more interested in dragons than women."
A lot of fans took that to mean that Charlie Weasley was asexual. A character's sexual orientation confirmed outside of the text sounds super familiar. Gamora, the Guardians of the Galaxy.
What are you doing, Peter?
Dance with me.
I'm not going to dance with you.
This is Sam Cooke, one of the greatest Earth singers of all time.
If you've watched Guardians of the Galaxy, then you obviously know that the two romantic leads, Gamora and Peter, haven't kissed. Oh, wait, you didn't know that? Yeah, these two, they have not kissed in the movies. In an interview with director James Gunn, he was asked why the main romantic leads in his space adventure movies did not share a smooch. Gunn states, "Gamora is not someone who is just going to give in to the moment, of a lustful, passionate moment. That's just not who she is. She loves Peter Quill. That's very obvious at the end of the movie, and she admits that to him. And their love is based on something much deeper than sex. It's based on a profound friendship between the two of them. They are the heads of this family in a lot of ways." In this statement, Gunn does seem to be describing an asexual individual in regard to how Gamora feels about Peter, and even likens the Guardians themselves to a queer family. However, he doesn't seem to be intentionally referencing these identities, only alluding to them. This is terrible representation. Though it's all well and good, here's the problem. Basically, the only people who will recognize these characters' sexualities are the author/creator and that specific fan base who bothered to look this stuff up at all. A mainstream audience will not educate themselves. A mainstream audience doesn't have to be confronted with these characters being explicitly asexual. There's a reason asexuality is called the invisible orientation, and this just further keeps it in the dark. That's not representation. Raphael, Shadowhunters. Freeform Shadowhunters is a fantasy adventure show based on a young adult novel. Shadowhunters, half humans, half angels, hunt demons, werewolves, and vampires. Raphael is an antagonist vampire turned ally who develops a relationship with the Shadowhunter Izzy.
Kiss me.
It's not like that. I'm not like that. I'm just not interested in sex.
Being a vampire made you this way?
No. I've always been like this.
The word asexual isn't used, but the description of it is spot on. Izzy, his love interest, is notoriously sexual. This is another part of the Shadowhunter's use of asexuality that is positive, showing an asexual person perfectly capable of feeling love and romance, who has those feelings reciprocated by someone who isn't ace. Todd, BoJack Horseman.
I got more of you than I ever deserved. If you never talk to me again, I just want you to know that I appreciate it. And I appreciate you.
Thanks. It was shitty what you did with Emily, but, I think I'm asexual.
Asexual what? Dynamo? Deviant? Harassment lawsuit waiting to happen?
No, asexual, not sexual.
Oh.
I'm sure you think that's weird.
Are you kidding? That's amazing. Sometimes I wish I was asexual. Maybe then I wouldn't have a strain of herpes.
You have multiple
Yeah, I know I have
strains.
multiple strains, but the joke only works with the A.
It actually feels nice to finally say it out loud. I am an asexual person. I am asexual.
That's great.
This moment in BoJack was met with glee from the asexual community. Not only did Todd name his sexuality, but he was accepted by his friends. Plus, he meets other asexual individuals, and they even show two asexual people married, and Todd's interest in marriage as well.
John and I are aces, and we're married.
Really?
Yeah. Our wedding was nautical themed.
Why nautical? Is that like an asexual thing?
No, man, we just really like boats.
Asexual just means you're not interested in sex. Some asexuals are also aromantic, but others have relationships like anyone else.
But involving boats?
I feel like you're getting really hung up on the boats thing.
There's no tiptoeing around the issue. It's there in the audience's face. And those who have never heard of asexuality now have to deal with it. Even learn a little about it. Headcanons. So earlier, we talked about how fans of the Harry Potter books liked the idea that Charlie Weasley was asexual aromantic. It's not official within the text of the book, to be clear. Fans have simply rallied around this idea, making it their headcanon. This happens a lot in fan communities. So what is canon and what is headcanon? A creator will make something. Everything within that text is considered canon. When fans come together and create ideas based on the text, or even in spite of the text, these are called headcanons. It's canon, but only in the heads of the fans. The creator doesn't have to approve or even like the idea. It's just for the fans. So, to reiterate, Charlie Weasley likes dragons. Canon. Charlie Weasley is asexual. Headcanon. Even if a character already has an identified sexuality within the show's canon, fans can still headcanon a character as a different orientation. Most characters are overwhelmingly straight, so LGBT fans especially like to dabble in messing with a character's orientation. Headcanons are usually used in fan works and are inspired by the canon material. So why do we need to look at characters that fans like to think are asexual? Because it shows what aspects of the characters asexual people respond to. To be clear, none of these following characters are asexual in canon. It's all fan conjecture. Or headcanon.
You had plenty money, 1922. You let other women make a fool of you. Why don't you do right like some other man do?
Jessica Rabbit. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Okay, this one is super fun. So of all the Disney characters to headcanon as asexual, why Jessica Rabbit? Well, the answer is super obvious in the fact that it's not obvious. It plays with the assumption that sexuality is inherent in humans, that asexuals are frigid, and that dressing sexy is only for the benefit of attracting a partner. So imagining Jessica Rabbit as asexual creates a situation in which the audience has to question their preconceived notions. Why does her body, her dress, her mannerisms mean that she's sexual? We never see her engaging in sex, she never talks about having sex, and neither does Roger Rabbit. After all,
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
the way your body is and the way that you dress is not a determining factor in whether you experience sexual attraction or not. Ward Meacham. Iron Fist. Iron Fist is about a rich guy who gets trapped in the magical Himalayas for 15 years, studying kung fu and becoming a magical kung fu master, returning to his home in New York and trying to take back his family's company from his childhood friend Ward. Ward is a CEO. Ward starts off as the main antagonist, but slowly turns into a much more complex character. He loves his sister, even his dad, when his dad isn't hitting him, and he has a drug addiction. Ward is a grown-up, serious character who actually has no love interest, or even seems interested in a romantic relationship at all. A lot of fans latched onto this.
You're kidding me.
That is a loss of hundreds of millions of dollars. She is worse than these
bleeding heart liberal trust fund hipsters wandering around Williamsburg.
Thanks for the interview.
Well, you leaving so soon? We've got bourbon to finish.
Tempting, but I have an early morning deadline. Allison? Listen, don't give the front page to Karen. I've got a hell of a story for tomorrow.
It's subtle, but here we see an unusual reaction to being rejected. Yes, Ward is manipulating this woman, but he's not disappointed at the rejection. He actually doesn't even seem to care. How many male characters react so evenly to being denied sex?
Why? Why would you let me think I was getting away with it?
Well, we all have our private vices. Yours just happened to be embezzling. And as long as your hobby didn't interfere with our work, who was I to judge? But honestly, Ward, couldn't you have just gotten a mistress? Much simpler.
It would have been so easy to show this character out at strip clubs or brothels, but they don't. Instead, they choose embezzling as his vice. Asexual people are often infantilized. Sex is seen as this gateway to adulthood. But if you aren't interested in sex, or never experience it, then what's the thing that qualifies you as an adult? Ward is a character that you can take seriously, and that's something that asexual people crave. To be seen as fully fledged adults without having to prove it through sex. So after learning all this, we come back to the original question. Why does any of this matter? Why does seeing asexual identities properly represented in mainstream media matter?
From whenever you started watching TV until you saw your first queer character on TV, you saw hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of characters you didn't relate to, or relationships that didn't look like anything you wanted, or things that didn't quite click for you until finally you do, and it feels so special and it feels so important when you finally see it. And I think that we really latch onto that because it's the first time we feel seen on TV after seeing so much of like just straight relationships on TV and straight characters, and it's just like it's like breathing fresh air after being in smog for a really long time.
There is divisiveness in the queer community. Are ace people queer? There are compelling arguments on both sides. After all, it's never been illegal to be asexual. You can't necessarily lose your job for being asexual. And if you are discriminated against in real life, your asexuality won't come up unless you bring it up. But there's something that's forgotten. Ace people queer romance and sex. In Megan Milk's and Carly June Sarankowski's work, Asexualities, Feminist and Queer Perspectives, they write, "We undoubtedly view this project as a queer one, making sense of the social marginalization and pathologization of bodies based on the preference to not have sex, along with exploring new possibilities in intimacy, desire, and kinship structures. How could that not be queer? Whether it is the aromantic asexual who feels no compulsion to a relationship and finds satisfaction in family and friends, or the biromantic asexual who loves their girlfriend and the relationship doesn't involve sex, or the queer platonic pair whose relationship is based on a strong bond without typical romantic intimacies, and who wish to raise a child together. Asexuals redefine intimacy. They have to. The script of romance leading to sex, or sex being compulsory, feels as foreign as a lesbian falling in love with a man, as discordant as a transgender person being forced to live their life as the gender they are not. The incidents of asexuals being discriminated against on a legal standpoint are rare, but socially, there's a shared belief that asexual people don't exist, can't exist, and if they do, they aren't human, because asexual relationships go against the heteronormative script just as much as any other queer identities. So basically, representation matters. The CW's erasure of this identity with Jughead hurt the ace community and perpetuated a heteronormative ideal. But it's not too late. Some asexuals don't really know if they're ace until they start exploring relationships, until they start exploring sexuality, until they have sex. And that could be a compelling storyline for Jughead. Will it happen? Probably not. It is the CW. But going the asexual direction with Jughead, with another character, well, that's a start.